Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our project management training class. It's actually a class that is actually meant to prepare those who are writing the PMP exams and also the CAPM exam. And also maybe you're writing your Scrum Master exams. You have a lot to gain over here as well. And as much as possible, I want to take my time to break down a lot of concepts in project management, to a level that would actually make you understand it bit by bit. So I'm going to be taking classes bit by bit in this platform to break it down to a level you can actually clearly understand. So today we're going to be talking about the agile project management, agile approach to project management. And to address this, it's actually a housekeeping approach. And to address this, I want to let you know that we have different kinds of projects, and the strategies and the methodologies you intend to adopt as a professional project manager depends on the kind of project. And when I talk about the kinds of projects, I'm talking about the different natures in which projects actually present themselves. For instance, we have projects with clear definable work, and also we have projects that are exploratory in nature in the sense that you need to explore to have a better understanding of the project. So, in the case of projects that are actually clearly defined, most times it's very advisable that we go with the predictive approach. We have different names you can call them. We have the traditional approach, the waterfall approach, plan-driven approach, predictive approach. And this lesson is in line with the Pinball Guide, 7, okay, and also reflecting back to the Pinball Guide 6. And I would let you know that if you're preparing for your PMP exam, this is going to give you all you need. Okay, it's going to give you all the background knowledge you need to write your exam. So all these names is actually for the predictive approach, where a project has a defined scope that is clearly understood. And if that is the case, then you can apply this. For instance, you have your building project. You want to build one room project, for instance, and then you know so well that maybe you're very sure of the price of the materials in the market. You're very sure of the quantity of cement needed, the number of blocks which can be gotten by your quantitative calculation. So if you're able to do all that, you agree with me that you can actually sit at the beginning of the project and quantify all you need, and then put it all together and then project for all your material requirements for the projects. So this kind of project management methodology is actually what we call, this type is what we call the predictive approach, or the waterfall approach, or the traditional approach, or the plan-driven approach. Plan-driven approach because you made the plan and you work according to the plan. So in this case, scope can be defined upfront, and changes can also be controlled, and process and plan can be defined for delivery of the work. Okay, so contrary to this, also we have the exploratory approach of the project management, which is what we call the agile. Okay, it's the agile project management. So when you hear about the agile, just understand that is a kind of exploratory project management methodology. And I'm going to cite an example with the Walkman, for instance, with the Apple industry. They started off with the Walkman in the year 1979, and then maybe they came up with a project, because in agile, you are actually expected to deliver values as little as it is. So they came up with the first project and they delivered value. That's a Walkman in 1979. And then while that was on, they were still working on getting customer feedback on the product that was delivered. That is a Walkman. And later on, there was an improvement based on the requirements gotten from the customers. They improved to the iPod. Okay, so from the iPod, after the rolling out of the iPod, also they didn't stop there. They continued also gathering information about the next phase. How's it going to be in business? What will be sellable in the in the markets? And then they came up with the Apple Music in the year 2015. And it continues that way. And today we're having the iPhone 4, the iPhone 6, the iPhone 9, and the rest of them, the iPhone 11 and 14 Pro right now. So And I don't know what's coming up next, but one thing you need to know is that it's actually an exploratory approach, and they're exploring. While they're doing the exploration, they're coming up with rolling out new products that will be acceptable to the customers. So in this case, the scope cannot be fully defined upfront because you cannot tell what people's expectations of the project are upfront. So for that reason, you do what we call progressive elaboration, meaning that as you progress in the business, you're gaining more understanding of the market situation, you're understanding your clients the more, and you're improving on the understandings you have. So also you also discover that changes occur rapidly. Okay, so over time, you can see that the Apple industry have been able to effect a lot of change in products. So, and also they adapt through feedbacks and evaluation. So if there's any new product rollout, you discover that it's an outcome of feedbacks gotten from customers, evaluated the feedbacks, and then we have new product being rolled out into the market. So basically, in the Agile, when you hear the word Agile, which is change-driven methodology, there are two basic methodologies under the Agile, okay? So you can also say that Agile is a consequence of these two methodologies. The first one is iterative methodology, and the second one is incremental methodology. Okay, so these two we can see in the exploratory problem solving work. So we have iterative and then we have incremental. The combination of these two kind of methodologies, these two type of methodologies, gives you the agile or change-driven method of project management. So now, in the predictive life cycle, you discover that a more traditional approach with the bulk of planning occurring from the beginning of the project, then executed in a single pass. That's a sequential process is being followed. And when that happens, you discover that that is actually a predictive life cycle. And also, iterative life cycle is an approach that allows feedback. So the key word there is feedback. Okay, you are working on a project, and at every close phase, time phase, aspect of the project, you're getting feedback from your customer. For instance, you want to build a house and then you feel, okay, I don't really understand the concept in the mind of my clients, but I'm going to put up a feedback methodology system. For instance, you conclude your design. Maybe you did a model, 3D modeling, for instance, and then after that, after your model, it kind of gets your customer or your client, sorry, to look at the model. Okay, so you're trying to paint a picture of what the customer has. So he will look at it and say, okay, this is fine, this is not okay, the color is okay, the floor design is okay, that we can do all this with 3D today. So you can all actually paint a clear picture of what the customer wants. And then he will tell you, no, why don't you change this to this? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? Because then we did this. So that is getting feedback from your customer. And based on the feedback, all right, you are improving on your projects based on the feedback. So this method is called the iterative method. All right. And it's the iterative life cycle. So incremental life cycle is the example I showed you earlier, okay, that was adopted by the Apple company, where they have to roll out products in little single increments. All right. An approach that provides finished deliverables that the customer may be able to use immediately. For instance, the first thing that came out from the Apple company was the Walkman, and after that you have the iPod, and after that you have the Apple Music, and after that we're having different versions of the iPhones rolling out today. So this is actually a very clear example of the incremental life cycle, and also a combination of the iterative life cycle. Please just pay attention to this. A combination of the iterative life cycle and incremental life cycle is what we call the agile life cycle. Okay, so don't get it twisted over there, because it simply means that the agile life cycle gets feedback from the in-between and then rolls out deliverables or increments, okay, at intervals as well. So at every shortest possible time, value is being delivered. So that is the advantage of agile life cycle. It's an approach that's both iterative and incremental to refine work items and deliver value frequently. Yes. So the table we see here is actually just a very simple, a summary of everything I've explained so far about the various methods being used. So as we advance, you're going to see that Agile is both iterative and incremental. And also, we're going to look at a situation where we'll find the predictive, methodology or life cycle being hybridized with the Agile. We call that the hybrid methodology. Okay, so, and that is what we see here, the hybrid development life cycle. So these are the development life cycles. So in your exams or PMP exam, they may ask you the different kind of development life cycles. They may not ask you directly what kind of development life cycle, but they may ask you where you can apply this life cycle. So a proper understanding of all this, of what I'm explaining right now, would really go a long way to help you, tackle such questions. I want to believe you're with me. Yes. So the hybrid development life cycle is a combination of the plan-driven project life cycle and the change-driven project life cycle. So I want to believe that by now, you should understand that the plan-driven is the one whose it's a kind of project whose scope is clearly defined upfront, and you understand it so well. It has just limited uncertainty, and you can actually tell a lot about the projects. You can predict all your requirements from the beginning of the project. But in the case of change-driven project life cycle, the requirements are not clear from the beginning of the project. So what we work with is just with as much, requirement we have, at the moment, and while we, go into the projects, it's called progressive elaboration. As we go into the project, we gain more understanding, we get more feedback, and then we expand the scope. So that is how it works in the change-driven project life cycle. So if you're facing a project where the scope is not too clear, you're not too sure about, the full requirements of the project, then it's advisable that you adopt the change-driven project life cycle, or you call it the Agile life cycle. Yeah. So the traditional, we need to understand the constraints in both kind of project life cycles. Okay. When I mean constraints, we have the factors that are fixed, okay, or that affects your decisions in a project, or factors that controls your activity in a project. So we have the traditional project life cycle and also the Agile project life cycle. So for the traditional project life cycle, the constraints, we have the fixed constraint, and the scope is the fixed constraint for the traditional projects, projects. Then, and the scope is the fixed constraint in traditional because the scope defines everything about the projects. Okay, for instance, if you have, for those who are in the construction industry, you want to construct a drain of about 100 meters, length or distance, and then you quite agree with me that after your quantification and all that, and you've agreed on the final project's cost for the construction of the drain, you will agree with me that the cost is actually directly proportional to the scope, which is the requirements. And also, if it's going to take you 10 days to complete the drain, you also agree with me that the 10 days is a factor of the scope. All right. So if you decide to increase the drain by an extra 50 meters, which to make it 150 meters drain, is going to affect your cost and your time. So that's why we say that the scope is a fixed constraint. Whatever happens to the scope definitely affects the costs and the time. All right. So also, in the Agile project, also we have the fixed constraint here is the cost and the time. The cost and the time is the fixed constraint, the fixed constraints, please. Because in the Agile project, as we go into it, you're going to see that we work with timelines. We work in sprints. I'm not going to say much about this now, but by the time we go into fully into the Agile project, you understand that, we work in sprints. And when I mean sprints, we divide the project into phases. Okay, these phases could be in weeks, maybe 2 weeks, every 2 weeks. After these 2 weeks, I'm going to go into the next feature. After the next 2 weeks, I'm going to go into the next feature. I break down my project into timelines. And this timeline is unalterable. You cannot alter the timeline. Okay, the essence of it is that it's necessary for me to have this timeline to be able to maintain discipline within my team and also in the control of my project. I need to maintain absolute discipline. So that is why I'm breaking down my project into timeline. All right, so that's why I have to break it down into timelines. And whatever happens, you also agree with me that the time defines the cost. All right, it's a function of the cost as well. And then it tells you how much you have in your scope. So what you're asking yourself here, you're not asking yourself how much you're asking yourself how much can I accomplish within the timeline. And whatever you are accomplishing within the timeline will also have a direct relationship with the costs. Okay, so that's just a basic factor over there. Then also, I want you to understand that Agile is a mindset. Okay, Agile is a mindset. It's not a methodology, but it's a mindset. For instance, what you do, you wake up in the morning and then you wake up every time by 7 o'clock and you go to work late. You wake up by 7 a.m. You go to work late. You get to work late, and it's kind of your regular habit. And then you feel, I need to change my mindset. And maybe you have a goal, and the goal is that you want to try as much as possible to avoid late coming or going to work late, and then you kind of change a lot of things about yourself. And based on that, you said, okay, now I'm going to be waking up by 4 o'clock. That's just an example though. But the Agile is a mindset, like I said. So this mindset is achieved, all right, using various methods, various skills, various, artifacts, which we're going to look at. We have the Scrum, the XP, the backlog, the retrospective, flexibility will have to be added to the Agile, the risk we have to be built into the Agile process, the sprints, okay, the execution of a project it has to be broken down into sprints. All right, so it's not like you're rolling it out at once, but you're breaking it down into sprints, possibly because you're delivering products or possibly because you want to be getting feedback in between those sprints. So also you have the Kanban being employed. Please don't be afraid and don't get kind of moved by maybe the strange words you're seeing here, but I'm going to take my time to explain this word. All right. So let me just say one or two things about a few of them. Now, the word Scrum here. The word Scrum simply means team. Okay, Scrum is a team. All right, and as much as possible, Agile is paying much attention to, the team, the project team, because a project cannot be executed in isolation. All right. So the quality of a project depends on the quality of the team. So if you have a good team, definitely you agree with me that you're going to deliver a very solid project. So Agile gives more credence to the team. All right. So you want to see how you can build a very good team. Then also we have extreme programming. All right. Extreme programming. This actually drawn from the IT industries. I want to see how you can have effective programming. And also this methodology is being, a kind of, we're trying to see how this methodology can be adopted across not just the IT industry, but across all the industries, and all already is being adopted presently. Then also we have the backlog. The backlog there is actually talking about, a list of requirements. And it is the requirement that defines the scope of the project. So the backlog is actually a list of the requirements. We're going to be mentioning two major backlogs while we continue. We're going to look at the product backlog, and we're going to look at the sprints backlog. Then also we have the retrospective. These are the methodologies used to kind of achieve or to implement the Agile. So we have the retrospective at the end of every project or every sprint of the project. If there's a need for the team to sit back and look back and reevaluate themselves and figure out what we're not properly done and see how to do it better in the next sprints. That's the essence of the, the retrospective. And also in the case of flexibility, it's very important for you to have a flexible project. Okay. Unlike the predictive project that is more rigid and, process driven, for you to make a little change, you have to go through a whole lot of process. Don't worry, I'm going to make another video for the predictive methodology, and I'm going to explain to you, and you're going to see how rigid it is, though very effective also. But also you see that Agile is trying to take care of the rigidity in the predictive methodology. So in Agile, it's more flexible. Changes can be made so easily. You can actually do a lot of things. People can come up with ideas, and you adopt the ideas if it works very well for the organization. Okay, so then also risk. In Agile project management, risk is actually built into the process. Okay, every day you have daily stand-ups, every day. And the essence of your daily stand-up is to make sure that, you try to find out, issues that are risky to the project. All right. Things that can actually hinder the execution of the project, that can affect the goal behind the project. So that is just it. So we'll try to avoid that. And the only way to do that is by building risk management into the project execution. And that is what Agile does. And like I told you, in the case of the sprints, you see that the sprints is you breaking down your project into different sections, okay, into different timelines. And you're asking yourself, in each of these timelines, how much can my team achieve within this time frame? So that is the essence of the sprints. So you're asking yourself that question, and you're taking as much requirement as you can, you and your team, so that you can be able to execute that within the time frame. All right. So the Kanban is actually a transparency system. Okay, it's a system where you want to be transparent with the project's operations, daily operations. All right, the whole call it Kanban board. All right, the Kanban board shows you the workflow of the project. Okay, anyone anywhere around the project, be you a stakeholder, the project manager, the team, or even somebody who is stranger, who is actually not part of the project, can come around. You go to the Kanban board and see the progress of the projects. You don't need to go ask much questions. So there's absolute transparency in the Agile. So the Kanban, actually the method of the Kanban was actually adopted into the project methodology. So that's just it. I think this is just a brief on what we have here in my slide. I just took my time to explain so that you can have a fair idea, because we're still going to be talking about it as we progress. Now, I said Agile is a mindset, yes. Now the mindset, okay, is actually expressed in 4 points, okay? 4 basic points. Number 1, all right, is these 4 points actually a relationship between Agile and predictive life cycles, okay? Now, some years back, a team of IT, specialists actually came together. They appreciated the predictive methodology, and they felt that, they would actually prefer some things more than the strict, the kind of the plan-driven nature of the predictive methodology, and that was how Agile came on. Okay, so the Agile mindsets or the Agile manifesto is expressed in these 4 points. Number 1, that individuals and interactions should be given more consideration over processes and tools. Okay, so as much as possible, let's see how we can kind of look at personalities in the projects, individuals, see how to build them, see how to bring out the best in them, see how to make them effective, see how to make them not just to work for the sake of the work, but let them see reason to be a part of the project, a part of operations, a part of what is going on in organizations. All right, so that was their mindset. So it's not like they are trying to say, okay, you must follow this process. If you don't follow this process, you're not going to be approved. You must get this approval. You must do this. No. They want to see how you can invest into human resources. Then also working software. All right. Now they feel that, okay, now because presently we have so many working softwares that have been developed, and the essence of that is to make sure that you can actually use it to ease your work instead of having these comprehensive documentations where you have to write everything. You keep writing, a heap of documents everywhere. But in this case, just with working softwares, you can have all your documentations in the system and then also in the cloud, so that anytime anyone anywhere can make reference to them. So they feel that they will prefer working softwares than comprehensive documentation. And also we have customer collaboration. All right. So it's better to collaborate with your customers, maybe your clients, maybe your your vendors, your people you're dealing with, your contractors. Better to collaborate with them than coming into contract negotiation. All right, make them see reason why they need to be a part of the project instead of drawing out a terms of reference, terms of contracts, with the mind to maybe possibly make issues in the court tomorrow if at the event of failure. So that shouldn't be behind our mind, but let's see reason. Let's all see reason, both as clients, both as contractors. Let's see reasons why we should actually give our best in making sure that the goal and objective behind this project is achieved. And let's not look at just this project. Let's look at the future. Let's see how we can build a relationship. So they felt that it's better to build a relationship with your clients than for you to, establish a legal circle where that could kind of lead to litigation tomorrow. Okay, so they felt it's far much better for you to build collaboration. Okay, so customer collaboration is preferred over contract negotiation. And also, they felt that responding to change should be preferred to following a plan. Like in the predictive methodology, you can't just respond to change. You have to go through what we call a change control system, where you will have to evaluate the change request. For you to be able to make any change in the predictive methodology, that is this one here, you have to, if you want to make a change, you have to raise a change request. Whoever is requesting for the change, we have to raise a change request. Excuse me, please. Raise a change request, and then that change request will be subject to approval. Then after that, the project manager of the predictive project will have to do an evaluation. All right. You'll have to evaluate the change request and figure out the impact of the change to the scope of the project, okay, to the scope baseline, to the cost baseline, okay, to everything about the project. So how it's going to affect the project. After the proper evaluation, it's going to go to the change control board, and it's going to tell them that there's a change coming up from someone, and the change control board is going to look at it after much evaluation. It's going to tell them there's a change coming up, and he's going to tell them that he has done an evaluation. He's going to tell them that this is the impact, and for this reason, we're going to be paying an extra 10% on the initial contract sum. And they're going to look at it and figure out, they were going to look at it and say, okay, that we might not be able to approve this change because we don't have the money to do that. So, but considering the process they're going through, you have to go through all these processes. They feel no, it's better to respond to changes than following a plan. Okay, so we're going to look at that later on. So that is why there is value in the items on the right, that's on the predictive, we value the items on the left more. So that is what this simply means. Okay, so the agile mindset is described by 4 values. I want to believe that by now you understand these values. These are the values: individual interactions, working softwares, customer collaboration, and responding to change. Okay, it's described by those 4 values. Okay, then it's defined by 12 principles. We're going to look at the principles very soon. Defined by 12 principles. Okay, then it is manifested through unlimited number of practices. So we're going to look, there are so many practices, okay, that is used to, for instance, you have a mindset. You ask yourself, how am I going to achieve this mindset? For that reason, you say, how am I going to achieve this mindset? And then you feel, okay, now the only way I can achieve this mindset is by, adopting this methodology, picking up from here. I have an idea from this man. I take this and take this, put them all together. So the same thing happens here, okay? The agile mindset is going to be achieved using different unlimited number of practices. I've mentioned a few of them already. We have the Kanban, we have the Scrum. Okay, the Scrum basically talks about team management. The Kanban talks about transparency. Okay, and then you have the extreme programming. You have the lean concepts. Okay, there are a lot of concepts that actually makes up that actually helps in the implementation of the agile mindset. So this is just what we discussed earlier. What is agile? All right. Agile actually is expressed in these four mindsets. So we talked about the 12 principles. Okay, these are the 12 principles. All right. These are the 12 principles that we can actually use, all right, in implementing the agile mindset, the 12 principles. So I want to see how I can kind of increase it a little bit so that you can actually look at it with me. Okay, so now, the first one that you say you have to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Okay, you have to satisfy your customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. So when you talk about, most times when you go into project or project owners, what they always have in mind is this. They want to know about their return on investments. Okay, and return on investment talks about the shortest possible time in which you can actually start making interest from your investments. So that's what every investor wants to know. So the beauty of agile methodology is that it helps you to kind of start enjoying your ROI, okay, within a very short time. Then secondly, welcome changing requirements, even late in development. So agile process, harness changes even late in the development stage. So it harnesses stages and changes, okay? Then also deliver working software frequently with a preference to the shorter time scale. Okay, so it's preferably, it should be within a very short while, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 1 month. And you say, in 1 month time, I'm going to roll out a product, maybe iPhone 9. All right, then you roll it out and everybody's enjoying it. Then later on, you feel in the next following month, I'm going to roll out iPhone 10, and then you do that, everybody's enjoying it. But while you're doing that, you're gathering your feedback also from your customer. You want to know how useful your product is in the market. You want to know if it's okay. All right. So that's just it. So also, you build projects around motivated individuals and trust them to get the job done. I talked about investment into human resource, into your team. All right. So in the agile mindset, team building is a very basic factor. So you see how you can actually build projects around people who are motivated and trust them to get the job done. And also, the most efficient method of communication is what? Is face-to-face communication. Maybe there's an issue on site and you want to address that issue. Most times you don't go shouting where every other person is and then you embarrass the person and then you demean some of your staff and then make them to deliver less. So what you do is that you call them one-on-one, talk to them secretly, find out what their challenges is, and then see how you can help them solve that issue. Okay, when there are challenges on site or you're trying to tackle, maybe it's challenges at your workplace, in the organization and all that. So it's always very important. Face-to-face is always the best. All right, so working software is the primary measure of progress. So if you're able to deliver in Agile, it's believed that if you're able to deliver a working software, then it's a primary measure of progress. And also, Agile process promotes sustainable development. You want to see a development that can sustain the organization over many years. Okay, over many years. Then continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. Then simplicity is the art of maximizing the amount of work not being done. So you need to know that you have to keep your projects and backlog simple as possible. You have to make sure that you carry on with work you can actually achieve within the 2 weeks. Okay, you don't have to kind of carry on too many works You have to make sure you carry on as much work as you can accomplish within 2 weeks to make it simple. And that is very essential. And also the best architectures, the best requirements, and the best designs emerge from a self-organizing team. That is why, like I said, once again, we pay attention to team building. You have to build your team to the point that your team can deliver effectively, even in your absence. Okay, so the team regularly reflects on how to become more effective. You need to be, that's a sustainability now. You need to be futuristic. You need to ask yourself, you need to sit together and say, okay, how is it going to be? How can we improve? Can't we do better? You find out many organizations out there, they are going on and everything is going quite well. And then the fact is that even when everything is going quite well, in the next few years, let's say 5 years, it might not be the same thing because there's a whole lot of competition in other organizations. It's very important you sit back while everything is going quite well. You still have to ask yourself, how can we improve on what we're doing? There has to be a constant evaluation on what you do. So it's very important, both in daily operation in any organization and also in project management. You have to sit back and as a team and figure out how you can actually improve on what you do. All right, so sorry, I have to take this back. All right, so that's just it. Okay, sorry, just bear with me, please. All right, so having discussed all that, what is agile? Okay, now I told you that agile is a mindset. Okay, is a mindset achieved using so many other methodology. And one of the methodology, some of these methodologies are actually listed here. We have the Scrum. Okay, the Scrum. I told you already what a Scrum is. A Scrum, when you hear the word Scrum, it simply talks about a team. All right, team and team management. That's a Scrum. We're going to look at that in detail. Then also we have the Scrum and XP hybrid. Okay, custom hybrid, done slow, Kanban, Scrum ban, feature-driven development, extreme programming, the lean, okay, agile unified process, okay, agile modeling, and dynamic system development methods. So these are all methods that are actually adopted to achieve the agile mindset. All right, so in your PMP exam, you need to understand that agile is not the main methodology, okay? But there are methodologies used to achieve the agile mindset. And you might be hearing words like Scrum, Scrumban, XP, Kanban, and all that. These are just different methodologies that have been in use in various ages. Some have been in use over 100 years, and there has been a lot of a consideration. Studies have been made across, over many years to figure out all these methodologies. Then the kind of the initiators of the agile concept actually came up with all this, put them together, and picked up what was actually in alignment with the agile mindset to be able to fulfill the agile mindset. So understand that agile is a mindset that is achieved using different methodologies. All right? Okay, let me give an example. For instance, you are a fair person, you're not dark, you're fair in complexion, and you want to have 10 fair friends. What do? You go around, start looking at people who are fair, and that can smile very well. Maybe that's your option. Then you go around, maybe you meet one, you meet two, you meet three. At the end of the whole thing, you have 10 fair friends. It's just an example. So that's just how agile is. You have a mindset. You want to make sure that you develop things. You want to make sure that you kind of give credence to working softwares instead of bulky documentation and all that. So you put all this into consideration. You go into studies, then you figure out. So at the end of everything, all these methodologies came up. So all these methodologies, Scrum, XP hybrid, custom hybrid, don't know, Kanban, Scrumban, and the rest of them are actually methodologies that would help us to achieve the agile mindsets. It will help us to achieve the agile mindsets. Okay, so now we have the basic methodologies you need to pay close attention to is just what we have. You have the Lean, the Kanban, the Agile, the Scrum Ban, Crystal, Scrum, XP, FDD, that's Feature Driven Development, DSDM, AUP. All right. So these are the methodologies we need to pay attention to. So share lean concepts such as we have, when we talk about lean, we have concept like focus on value. Okay, so lean is a methodology that focuses on value. All right. Then lean is a methodology that talks about small batch sizes. So for agile mindset, we're talking of producing, values in batch sizes. Like I talked about the Walkman being rolled out, and then after that, after the first batch, you have the iPod. After that batch, you have the Apple Music. After that, maybe you have the iPhones, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, and all that. So these are batch sizes, small batch sizes. Now, that was actually taken, I don't know who they stolen from. It was taken from the lean concepts. Okay. Then also we have elimination of waste. Now I said that the agile is actually, as much as possible, we're encouraging a situation whereby you can actually break down your project into timelines. Okay. Now the timelines basically is often suggested that you go with 2 weeks, but it's between 2 to 4 weeks. All right, 2 to 4 weeks. You can make it 2 to 6 weeks. So it all depends on what is workable for you and also the nature of your project. But most times, basically, it's 2 to 4 weeks. Okay. Now, the essence of that is that if you have requirements on ground and you have time that are time fixed, okay, as much as possible, you want to make sure that you deliver within the timeline. All right. So if you have a work you can finish for 2 weeks, and then you decide to leave it for the next 6 weeks, or you have, a kind of, you have the liberty or the luxury of time to maybe based on your plan, you've said that, okay, you're going to finish this work for the next 8 weeks, but you know so well that you can finish this work for 2 weeks. That is waste. It's a waste of time because a work you ought to have finished for 2 weeks, you're now extending and stretching it to the next 8 weeks. So that's kind of a waste of time. So as much as possible, the lean concept want to reduce this waste. That is why the team will have to sit down and say, okay, in the next 2 weeks, what can we accomplish? All right. So that way time is not wasted and what needs to be achieved will be achieved at the right time. That's the idea behind the lean concepts. All right. So we have this sample questions. I'll just allow you to answer the questions. And after that, then we're going to say goodbye. But we'll continue with the Agile Labs. I'm still going to, in our next video, we're going to continue on other advanced topic on Agile. So the first question here is this. We have this. Okay, we have this. And so you as a project manager, advising your customer to choose the right approach for a project. In this case, the project has dynamic requirement, but you would like to allow feedback on partially completed work to improve and modify that work. Which of the following approach is most suitable? All right. Now, so in this case, the project has dynamic requirements. That means there's high level of uncertainty, but he would like to allow feedback on partially completed work, partially, not fully completed. So, and I talked to you about the life cycle, the iterative life cycles, the incremental life cycle, predictive life cycle, and the agile life cycle. And I said in the case of the iterative life cycle, the iterative talks about getting feedback, partial feedback over time. So the right option there is going to be option B. Okay, option B, which is the iterative life cycle. Then the question number 2 says, in a car design project sponsor cannot wait for the project to be completed. He is willing to receive first a subset of design It's talking about batch size here. You want to receive a subset of design, just like I taught you. I said, we have a case where you like the Apple. I normally make reference to that so that to make it clear, to keep my explanation clear. Okay. Now the Apple company came up with the Walkman. That's the first batch. The customer looks at it and is very happy, and he can use it. He can play music with it. He can go home and enjoy himself with it. But then he feels something can still be added to this. I wish this cassette in this Walkman, I wish they can just take it off and change it to memory card. How about that? Okay, where I can store it. Just this cassette can only carry just one music. Instead of that, with the memory card, I can kind of download up to 100 music in my memory card. I think that should be much workable for me. He goes back to the development team and asks them, please, can you help me do this? Then they go back to their drawing board and start reflecting over their requirements. And then they work on, produce another one, the iPod. Okay. From there, the Apple Music, where you can have so many. Then he said, okay, instead of having memory card, can't I have another one where from the net, I can play directly from the net, and as much music, billions of music, I can just play from the net. All right, so the development team goes back and they works on that and they come up with such products. Now, this question number 2 again, say in a car design project sponsor cannot not wait for the project to be completed and he's willing to receive first a subset of design. Which of the following life cycle approaches would you propose him? Predictive, iterative, incremental life cycle, and agile life cycle? The answer there is the incremental life cycle, because he wants to have the first increment. That's a subset of design. All right. So Karen is working at Consult Master, which is a consulting company. One of the clients of the Consult Master asked the company to prepare a project management approach fitting to the organization. Karen has worked on this project and found that Agile method will be a good fit for the company. Which of the following does not fit into the values of the Agile manifesto? I talked about the Agile manifesto. Now they're asking you, from the 4 manifestos we mentioned earlier, which among these does not fit in? That's just a very simple explanation to this question. So the number 1 is this: individuals and interaction. That is actually one of it. It's actually part of it. Comprehensive documentation, that is not part of it. Comprehensive documentation is a predictive process. Let's look at others. Customer collaboration, well encouraged in an agile, life cycle. Then also responding to change over following a plan, that is perfect. Now, let's go back to the question again, but in your exam, CAPM or your PMP exam, you don't have the liberty of time. You have to make sure, you have about just 1 hour, 20 minutes or 1 hour, 25 minutes to answer every question. Okay? That's in your PMP question. In your PMP exam, you have about 180 questions. Okay? About 180 questions, and you have about 4 hours to answer them. So if you divide it, it's going to give you 120 or 120 something, seconds to answer the question. So you have to be very fast. In writing your PMP exam and your CAPM, time management is of essence. Please, you make sure you manage your time very well. And I know that you can do it, and I wish you the best. Yes, I wish you the best. So going back to the question, okay? They say, which of the following does not is capital, all right, fits into the value of the Agile manifesto? So obviously, the answer is what? B. Answer B is the right option. Comprehensive documentation is not part of Agile. It's not like Agile methodology. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next set of questions. Now, in contrast with traditional project management approach, Agile approaches focus on rapid product development rather than focusing on exhaustive planning and change control. In your opinion, why do Agile teams strive for rapid product development? A, to meet product deadlines, to reduce scope creep, to obtain early feedback, to reduce the number of change requests. All right. Now, I say that in Agile is used when you have high level of uncertainty in a project, meaning that you don't understand a lot about the requirements. So you want to get as much feedback as possible. All right. So based on that, okay, to meet project deadlines, it's not really bad. Okay, but I think it doesn't fit in well here. To reduce scope creep, okay, it's not really too bad as well, but I don't think it's applied here. So to obtain early feedback is one key factor. That is quite promising. And then to reduce the number of change requests. So in Agile, we don't work with change requests. So the obvious answer there is, C, which is to obtain early feedback. So what's the highest priority of an Agile team? What is the highest priority of an Agile team? Okay. A, maximizing the work not done. All right. B, satisfying the customer by delivering valuable software early and often, welcoming changing requirements, even late in development, using iteration to effectively plan the project. So the right answer there is that the Agile team wants to satisfy the customer. The highest priority of any project is customer satisfaction. If at the end of your project, you're not able to satisfy your customer or your clients, then your project is absolutely useless. So satisfying the customer by delivering valuable software early and often is the highest priority of an Agile team. All right? So Kate is the manager of a software team. He's made it clear that mistakes are not to be tolerated. A developer spends several hours building proof of concept code to test a possible approach to a complex problem. When he eventually discovered from the experiment that the approach wouldn't work, Kate yelled at him in front of the whole team and threatened to fire him if he did it again. Now, which Agile principle best applies to this situation? So this calls your mind back to the 12 principles of Agile. Okay. Now, the most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. Okay. Building projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. So, looking at this, I think the best option here is option A, because Kel yelled at him in front of the whole team and threatened to fire him if he did it again. Okay, so that is not the right approach. The right thing to do would have been to, to discuss with this person face to face and see how to manage that person, manage the situation together and solve this problem. Okay, yes. All right, hi there. Thank you very much for this little time. And I'm going to be rolling out a lot for that video. Next time again, I'm going to be there's going to be a continuity to this. Okay, we're going to look at a whole lot of things. We're going to look at I told you that the Agile mindset is actually achieved using so many methodologies. So in our next class, we're going to be looking at other methodologies that have been used to achieve the Agile mindset. We're going to look at the Scrum, okay, the Agile Scrum, the Lean, the extreme programming. All right, we're going to look at all the artifacts, all right, all the information radiators and every other thing that are necessary in the Agile team to achieve the Agile mindset. So, and also I want to advise you to put in your best in your PMP exam preparation and also in your CAPM exam preparation. Okay, I personally found that the reason why many people fail their PMP exam. Okay, and the reason is because they hadn't put in enough preparation. And I also found that the reason why people pass their PMP exam. When I wrote my PMP exam, I passed in one sitting because I read like I never read before, seriously speaking. And I find out that a lot of people actually are not able to make it because they have a lot of knowledge gap that have not been covered up, and then they go into the exam hall and then eventually they become disappointed. So I wouldn't advise you to rush into the exam hall. I would advise you to take your time and study very hard. I would advise you to, as much as possible, treat so many past questions. You need to practice, you need to practice, you need to practice. Then practicing actually helps to build your confidence level, right? So you have to start off. And at the initial stage of it, you might find yourself failing so many questions. That doesn't mean that you are the worst person or you are not the best fit for the exam. But what you need to do is actually telling you that you need to put in more effort. When you fail, go back, study, figure out the areas you're failing, go back to your books and study. You have so many books you can use. You have the Ritamolki, you have the Pinball Guide 6, Pinball Guide 7. All right. We have the Agile Practice Guide. You have all this at your disposal. You go over them. When I wrote my PMP exam, I went through the Pinball Guide 6 3 times. The Pinball Guide 6 is about it's about 500, I think 551 pages. I went through it 3 times. The Pinball Guide 7 is about 370 something pages or thereabout. I went through it 3 times. Okay, the Pinball Guide 6 is about 570 something pages. The Pinball Guide 7 is about 370 something pages. And then the Ritamolki is about 550 something pages. I went through it. Okay, then you have the Agile Practice Guide as well that you need to go through. All right. So by the time you do that, take your time. Just make a timetable for yourself. You know, you need to be organized in the way you study. You do your studies. You know, make a timetable. You know, set goals and set time frame for you. You know, for your study period, and then see how you can pull it off with absolute discipline. Okay. Then I want to assure you that you'll be able to do it. And also, another thing that's very important in your PMP exam is your speed. Okay, you don't waste time with questions. I told you already that you have about 100. Oh, sorry, I have about 1 minute, 1 minute and 20. I think 1 minute and 20 or 25 seconds. All right, 1 minute and 5 seconds. That's what you have for question, and you're expected to do justice to that. You are expected to manage your time very well so that you can come out, with the best performance. And what are the advantages of your PMP exam? If you become PMP certified, you have the privilege, you get a salary raise in your place of work. You have the privilege to have a remote job out there. You become globally relevant, and then it makes you to become a global professional. That's the privilege of becoming, becoming PMP certified. Yes. So I don't believe in failure. Personally, I don't believe in failure. So I love big challenges, and I love taking challenges. Facing challenges, hit it hard. You understand? So when I wrote mine, I wrote just once, and I came out with I scored above targets in all the domains, because we have 3 domains. Okay, you have the people domain, the environment domain, and the process domain. So I scored above targets in all the domains. All right, so knowledge rules the world today. So I also believe that right in there is greatness in you, and there is no limitation in your life. And I want to believe that you also can become PMP certified. Yes. So in case if you need any more advice or anything, or personal, lectures from me, you can just, contact me via the number right there. I'm going to drop a number below this video. Just contact me. My name is Uchenna Michael Abali. I'm a certified project management professional. Thank you very much, and see you in the next class. Thank you.